You can say what you want, but I never been scared. Never been scared. Never been scared.
Welcome to the More Than Sports podcast, where everyone has a story. On today's episode, I speak with Tristen Ross. Tristen is a 2003 graduate of Evangel Christina Academy in Shreveport, Louisiana. Tristen was ranked nationally as the 22nd wide receiver by Rivals.com by the end of his senior year. Tristen, or T. Ross, chose to choose Oklahoma University to start his collegiate football career. On this episode, T. Ross discusses battling through injuries and working through the struggles of navigating school, practice, and his overall mental health post-high school. Thanks for joining. Now let's start the conversation. I'm here at the More Than Sports podcast. I want to welcome Tristen Ross to the show. How you doing today?
Oh man, it's a beautiful Saturday out here in the DFW. I'm loving it, man. Doing good.
Oh man, good. Yeah, man. Weather's beautiful today. So welcome to the show.
Oh yes.
Definitely want to
Man,
hop
thank
right
you for
into it,
having me.
man, and just get your viewpoint, man. On just let us know how did you get involved in playing sports?
Oh man. Well, like everybody, you see somebody else do it and you want to do it. So of course, for me, actually, basketball was my first love. I mean, just being able to, watching it on TV, and it was one of them sports like you don't really need nobody to play. You can just go find a ball and a hoop and do what you do. So first it was basketball for me, but then as I got older, I think maybe around 10, 11, 12, something like that, my cousins, they got into football. And every time they was older than me, maybe 3-4 years older than me, and every time we would get together, they'd be talking about football, and I didn't know what the hell they was talking about. So I was like, man, let me start trying to pay attention to this football stuff. And man, I just kind of started paying attention to it, and really, honestly, didn't even start playing football until 8th grade. That was my first year playing football, and just kind of fell in love with it. They actually had me playing. I played receiver, but they had me playing cornerback in middle school. And back then, this was like back in 97, 98, wasn't nobody throwing the ball then, so it was all wing T and options. So I'm just out there on the island, not going to tackle nobody. So I'm like, man, let me go on and try to see what this receiver life is like. So once I got to high school, man, that's when I just kind of started diving into receiver. Peter Ward, that was my favorite player. So, I kind of started studying the position, man, and it just kind of took off for me.
Okay. Were you were you a natural athlete, or was that something that you kind of had to work at, like some people? Because it's kind of interesting to see how some people just pick up certain sports, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, and they're just a natural. And other people, they end up being pretty good, but they have to put in the work. So which one were you?
Right. Luckily for me, man, it was just kind of one of those natural things. Because like I said, I never played football, played catch or whatever. But as far as, actually having or seeing that I had some type of talent as far as a receiver, that didn't happen until 9th grade, until I actually got to play receiver. I wanted to play in middle school, but like I said, wasn't nobody throwing the ball really. So I didn't actually get to play receiver until my freshman year. So once I got to high school and started like learning the position, I had to put the work in and try to figure out, okay, how I'm gonna make this thing work, or paying attention to the older cats that was in front of me and trying to mimic some of the stuff that they was doing, and just kind of learning that way. And it just, like you said, it just came natural, man. I had to work at it, but there was natural talent there, of course. So I was blessed, man. Blessed.
Right. Okay. So you kind of come into middle school. So where did you play? You said you started playing really in the 8th grade. So where was that?
That was in the great city of Shreveport, Louisiana. At Turner Middle. Started playing 9th grade year. I went to Huntington, and my position coach over there, he actually was. Well, he told me. I guess he saw something in me, because he was like, Tristen, I'm leaving, and I don't want to leave you over here. I want you to go over here to this other school. I know the offensive coordinator, and I'm gonna talk to your mother, and I'm gonna try to get you over there. And it was Evangel, and I didn't know nothing about Evangel besides they was a powerhouse, and they was throwing the ball. So I was like, okay, that it looked good, but how is this gonna work for me? But luckily, it worked out where I transferred. I had to sit out my sophomore year, but I got hurt my sophomore year anyway, early in the season. Uh, so I had to pretty much miss the whole year, but I still got to travel with the team. So I'm just, soaking up that Evangel culture. And I played 2 years, my junior and senior, and we won state both those years. So, man, it was something that, like I said, I was just blessed, man. Everything just kind of fell into place.
Right. Okay. So you were saying you went to Turner for the 8th grade year. Then I guess, right, and people that don't know, in Shreveport, Louisiana, right behind Turner is the high school, Huntington High School. So you said you went there and played your freshman year. You played receiver, and like, how did you do your freshman year? How did you perform?
Man, I actually I got to start one game against Airline because one of our starting receivers, he was hurt. So the coach, he was like, "I'm gonna throw you out there and I'm gonna let you play. I'm gonna start you as a freshman on varsity." I'm like, okay. I mean, I don't know no better, man. I'm telling you, like, I'm still new to this, and I don't know no better, man. I actually ended up having one catch for 5 yards on the whole year. So that was as good as it got freshman year. But I mean, JV and freshman ball, man, I don't even remember. I might have had 2 or 3 touchdowns. It wasn't nothing major or nothing like that. Like I said, I was still learning the position and just kind of like that awkward duck out there trying to figure out how to do stuff.
Okay. So, like you say, your coach was leaving, your position coach was leaving. So, what kind of relationship did you have with him where you guys were only together really for, I guess, a semester for the most part? Then he decides to, let you know that he was leaving and wanted to bring you along.
Well, I mean, well, they used to make a joke and claim that we looked alike. So, the cats on the team, they were like, "Oh, man, if I pay your daddy, man, that's your daddy. That's why he looking out for you." I don't know if he kind of heard that and just kind of took a liking to me or whatever, but I think, man, he just saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself yet. So I definitely got to thank him for that, because I don't know what would have happened if I would have ended up, just floating through football. I mean, I was blessed enough to get scholarship offers and all that other kind of stuff. So, man, believe it or not, I owe a lot to old Coach Rod Fape. So if anybody out there, if y'all see Fape, man, y'all tell him I said what's up, man.
Cool. So, like you're saying, after your freshman year, coach is leaving, your position coach is leaving, and he's going to be on the Evangel staff, and he kind of lets you know that he wants to bring you along. So how did that work as far as, like, maybe the conversation with your parents, or about you transferring?
Well, see, that's the thing. See, he didn't go. He didn't go to get on the staff. He was just leaving Huntington, and he didn't want to leave me there. Okay. So he was like, because at the time the head coach at Huntington was not that great. I'm not gonna say no names, but the head coach was not that great. So he wanted me to just be somewhere and have a position or have a chance to be successful. So he knew, he went to college with the offensive coordinator, Coach Duron, and we went over there and watched practice one day, and I talked to Coach Dunn at the time, and he was like, is this somewhere you want to be? And I was like, yeah, whatever. I mean, y'all winning state championships and throwing the football. Of course, this is where I want to be. But as far as with my folks or whatever, man, my mom, she was with it. Like I said, it took some talking into, but she eventually got on board because she saw it as something that could be beneficial for me moving forward. Going to college or whatever, and she rolled the dice, man, and she sent me on over there, and we got it done.
All right. Well, I guess that's kind of interesting because, like you said, you really only started playing in the 8th grade, so you really have your 8th grade and your 9th grade, so you hadn't been playing long.
Right.
So for somebody to come and be like, "Hey, we want to uproot you from Huntington and move you over to the school that you hadn't really been playing long, and that, not necessarily showed all these great and awesome skills and talents early on," I guess that it sounded like it probably did need a little bit of convincing, because I mean, to your point, you said you didn't know a lot about Evangel, so I'm assuming your mom didn't know a lot about Evangel either, so there had to be some education there.
Not a clue. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a learning curve, man. You know, going from, I mean, for those that don't know, going from Huntington to Evangel, it can be a culture shock if you ain't ready. So, but luckily, I mean, it was something that I just kind of adapted to. Like, you know, that's why me and Chester so close, because he was one of the first people that I gravitated towards when I got over there. You know, him and a couple other guys. So, you know, we still tight to this day. So, you know, I'm thankful that I got to go over there because I did form some lifelong friendships and bonds. Like, we ain't even friends no more. It's a brotherhood now at this point. So, you know, man, it was a good thing for me going over there. I think definitely.
Right. So you kind of mentioned earlier like there was a hard shift in culture. I guess if you don't really know, Huntington is I would say at that point predominantly a black school, African American school, and then you're making this shift over to Evangel, which is the opposite. And then you also kind of spoke about the culture.
Right.
So how was that making that shift from a mostly black school to a mostly all white school, and then also from just like a public school to a private school, and then on top of that you have the Evangel is a private school which is also a Christian school. So then you have the Christian aspect of it also.
That
So
element.
you got a lot of things going on. That's a really a hard shift from what you were used to from your freshman to your sophomore year. Like,
Right.
can you kind of speak to like some of those adjustments that you had to make?
Well, the biggest thing, like I said, was just kind of gravitating toward Chester and the rest of the fellas that I was cool with over there. Man, they kind of took me in, and I just kind of paid attention to the way they was moving, and just tried to do some of the same things, but with my own personality to it. The biggest thing for me, man, was going over there, and we had to wear uniforms because I don't even know if it's like this now, but I'm sure everybody in Shreveport is uniformed down now. Back then, you only had like Loyola and Evangel was the only ones that was wearing uniforms. So
Right.
I'm like, man, I ain't with all this. And then we had to wear K-Swiss. It's like, nah, this ain't gonna cut it for me. But it's like, this is a part of the deal, man. If you want to be over here, you gotta wear the K-Swiss, you gotta wear these khakis, and you gotta wear that blue polo. And then turn around, everybody in the city go to uniform. So it's like, okay, well, I ain't really missed much. So I mean,
Right.
man, it was a bit of a culture shock, but I think I got over it fairly quick because, like I said, I formed those friendships with pretty much everybody, not just the black folks. I mean, everybody. Like, everybody was welcoming. You go in kind of apprehensive, but once you get there and you finally start talking to people, you see, okay, this ain't that bad. This is cool. So, I mean, it was cool.
So how was it? And I don't know your background or your denomination or anything, but how was it going from just like a predominant, the public school system to this Christian private school? Because I know they had, a different, setup as far as like you guys, attending, church services and things of that nature as part of your curriculum, or at least having subjects where you were taught the Bible. So how was that shift and change?
Well, I mean, you grow up in a Christian household, you get talking about the Bible. It didn't blow my mind. It was actually kind of eye opening to see it from the other side, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because, as black folks, we got the way that we do it in the church house, and then, you have the other side or whatever. So it was kind of interesting to me, because I mean, moms was still making me and my brother get up and go to church on Sunday. So it might not have been the Evangel
Right.
church, but we were still going to church on Sunday. So it wasn't, that part was really kind of like more, I was feeding more of what I already had, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. No, I got you on that. That's what we call in Louisiana. That's that lanyard, man. Just some extra.
Yeah, you got to throw a
on
little
top,
extra on there.
so.
Throw a little extra on there.
So what was the biggest change you would say as far as like once you got on the field from coming from Huntington over to Evangel? Like, what could you see? Like, was just the talent that much different? Was the practices structured differently? Like, what could you speak to as far as like once you got over to Evangel and saw the change?
Really, it was the structure as far as how practices were run. Because, like I said, the coach at Huntington at that time, he was just kind of there. So, I mean, we had structure, but when you go into that culture of we got multiple state championships on this scoreboard, you know what I mean? Like, it's a certain expectation of things that you're supposed to do. So when you at practice, you know, you trying to make sure you as sharp as you can be, you know, running every route the best you can, catching every ball. Because, I mean, Evangel is known for their offense. Like, the quarterbacks and the receivers is what made the Evangel machine go. Now, I don't want to disrespect none of the defensive players that I played with, but you was going to see that Evangel offense back then. The Brock Berlins, the Josh Booties,
Right.
the John David Booties. Like, that's what you was going to see. So, you know, when we at practice, we trying to make sure we crisp and we sharp. On the reverse side, you know, not to bash the head coach any further that was at Huntington, but it's like it wasn't like that over there. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of made me step my game up a hell of a whole lot.
Right. So how was like, all right, so like you say, you're going playing against, you know, players that's kind of, you know, just out there, maybe not a lot of direction at Huntington. Like, how was that, like, once you get out there and you're lining up, you know, you're playing receiver, now you're lining up against these DBs, these cornerbacks that are, you know, all district, all state. Like, did you have a difficult learning curve, or did you get out there and pretty much picked up where you left off when you were over at Huntington?
Well, you know, actually, believe it or not, and I mean, I'd say this, you know, right hand to God, some of the talent level at Huntington might have been higher than it was at Evangel when I got there. But like I said, the head coach I guess he didn't know how to structure what he had. You know what I mean? I mean, when I got to Evangel, I mean, it you know, you think Evangel and you think like, oh man, everybody at every position is just killing, but that wasn't the case. You know what I mean? It's like I said, we had guys at Huntington that could have came to Evangel and been 4-year All-State cats. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I had more of I got challenged more at Huntington, you know, being a young guy, not knowing what I'm doing, and out here with these, you know, what I consider great athletes at the time. Now I'm going over here to Evangel, and it's like, okay, I done kind of went through this year. That was my learning curve, I think, at Huntington, and then sitting out that year at Evangel. It's like I kind of put the two together, like, okay, I kind of used to do my thing at Huntington. I can do my thing a little bit better over here. So, you know, I kind of brought some of that HHS with me over to Evangel and kind of swagged it out there as much as I could.
You brought some of that dog with you, huh?
I had to, man. I had to.
Right. So you spoke about having to sit out your sophomore year. Like why did you have to sit out? Was that just based on the transfer protocol at the time?
Yeah, it was the transfer rule. Like, you couldn't transfer and play, I think if you lived within the district or something like that. So, you know, like I said, it worked out good for me because I ended up having like a thigh contusion on my right leg, and I couldn't even like bend my leg. I think I got hurt maybe the second or third game of the year at practice. So it's like I couldn't practice. I just had to go do therapy pretty much that whole fall my sophomore year. 2-3 times a week. So I mean, it worked out. That's why I say, man, I was just blessed because it worked out for me good to be able to, you know, have that year off and get my leg back right, and then come back and have 2 years. Coach Dunn used to tell me it was like a redshirt year for me, which it was, you know, learning the offense and all that kind of stuff, and getting used to my new surroundings. So it was actually the best thing probably for me sitting out that year.
Okay. So, like you say, you set out your sophomore year, at least that fall. Then the spring before your junior year starts up. So you really have that whole fall to, like you say, learn the playbook, learn the Evangel culture. I mean, you're still lifting, I'm assuming, things of that nature. So you're getting smarter as it relates to the playbook. You're getting stronger, obviously, because you know you can focus really a lot more just on your conditioning and things of that nature. So as you come into that spring of your sophomore year, getting ready to lead into your junior year, like where was your mindset and how were you competing when you got out there for spring ball?
Spring, man, it was, who did we play? I think we played Houghton in the spring, and man, I just remember being ready to go because it's like I done been on the leash for a year. My leg is finally back right. I'm pretty much starting because, like I said, you know, we running 4 receivers at Evangel, so it's like I'm in the rotation as one of them starters, and it's like it's go time. I can't even remember how I did that spring. I just remember I was just excited to be out there and being able to play football again. But I mean, man, it was really I was just ready to get the season started because it's like this is what I came over here for, and I actually was one of the youngest receivers that we had. Like everybody else was seniors. You know, Chester was a year ahead of me. Thomas Bachman, Kenneth Brantley, Jonathan Wade, all them guys, they was a year ahead of me. So I'm, watching them do their thing or whatever, and here I am, this junior, and I'm really kind of like licking my chops and thinking like, okay, man, this senior year, when these boys is gone, that's really when I'm gonna go crazy.
Right. So coming in, like you said, had a lot of seniors ahead of you, man. So you had a lot of people you can kind of glean from and watch it. So like coming into your junior year, like did you meet your expectations as far as like how you played and performed or during your junior season?
I think I did, man. I think I never forget, a receiver, we never forget our stats. I had 34 catches for 502 and 4 touchdowns my junior year. So I feel like, okay, I did pretty good, you know what I mean? And we won state. So, like I said, I was ready for that senior year to really kind of go off. I had set goals for myself in my mind, but I didn't actually put them to paper until that senior year. Really, my only goal my junior year was just to kind of get out there and just compete, make a name for myself, see if I can't, start to get some kind of recognition so we can take this thing to the next level after high school. Along with that, I'm going to camps and stuff, in the summertime, when we had downtime, like I said, trying to get my name out there, Nike camp, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's year-round football, man, and it ain't it was never no sitting down and sitting still.
Right. Okay. Now speak to me about the camp. So, because I've spoken with several people, and I guess there's different perspectives when it comes to camps. A lot of people say they never knew or heard about camps. Some people say that they did, but they were never really told about any camps by the coaches or anything like that. It was something they kind of had to figure out on their own. So when you were saying you were going to all these camps, these Nike camps, things of that nature, was that something like you found out about? Was that something that your coaches told you about? Like, how did you get involved in those?
Man, it's like I said, just watching them guys in front of you. At the time, Jonathan Wade, he was one of he was highly recruited, based off of his speed. So, he was talking about all these camps he was going to go to, and then you got all the other guys talking about how they went to this camp. So I'm seeing, okay, you got to add this in your repertoire, something that you need to do if you're trying to get noticed. Like, that's one thing I'll say to these kids today, man. You can't wait on a coach to come tell you to go to this camp. Like, but now it's different now because they got social media, so they can see it, and it's different. But back then, it's like, whatever school you want to go to camp on for, like, go do your research. It was a little harder back then, but, you still find ways to make it happen. Now, you go to your head coach and you tell him, like, hey, coach, I'm thinking about this camp, or I like this school or whatever, and then, let him do what he do. But, man, it was just watching the guys in front of me. That's really how I got hip to it.
Okay. So but was there any kind of communication from any of the coaches as far as like, whenever you guys were having conversations about camps, or that was all really just between the players?
It really kind of was. It was a players thing, because the coaches, they couldn't. I don't think they could actually take us to camp. I don't know. I'm not sure what that rule was. I think they could, but back then it was like, okay, Chester, you going to this camp? I want to go to this camp with you. Like, I had one homeboy in particular. Like, we went to camps together. Like, that was what we did. Like, if I was going to a camp, Chad was going to be in the car and he was rolling. You know what I mean? So right. It's just kind of like, you bring your boys with you and you talk about it amongst yourself, because I mean, you want to see your boys succeed too. So, it's like, hey man, let's go to this camp or let's go to that camp. Like I said, you don't really want to depend on no coach to get you to no camp.
Right. Okay. So like once you got to the camps, like was it what you expected? Like, were you kind of getting out there, kind of killing it, or was it just something like, you kind of going back and forth, or like, what was your experience in those camps?
Man, I actually, I did pretty well on the little camp circus, man, that I hit. I actually went to I got invited to the U.S. Army All-American. Well, they had a combine. This was the year that Vince Young, it was Vince Young, Lorenzo Booker, a lot of big names back then was actually playing in the game, but they had a combine the day before the game for like all the underclassmen. I actually ended up getting offensive MVP out of the entire combine for that. Because like I said, I'm just out there, I'm killing them. Like in the one-on-ones, like I might not necessarily kill that 40, but these one-on-ones, like, man, somebody got to see me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we finna do this. Got invited to Nike camp, went down there, had a good showing. The first camp I actually went to was OU going into my sophomore year. It was back when the overnight camps was a thing. I went and stayed at the 3-night overnight camp at OU, and by the end of the camp, I got offered a scholarship. So it's like I'm starting to see that was like, okay,
this was before,
okay, you mean I go
your
to
sophomore
camps
year?
and kill? This is going into my sophomore year. Well, actually, Coach Stoops he called me in the office, and he kept it on the table. Like, he told me that I was on their radar, and pretty much offered me a scholarship. Like, well, no, I take that lie back. Let me not say going into my sophomore year. Coming out of my sophomore year, going into my junior year. I went to the camp, and they offered me a scholarship going into my. Hadn't even played it down yet. Just went to the camp, and just went out there and did my thing. Like I said, speed was never really my game, but the routes and precise route running in hands, I'm gonna give you that all day. So I just tried to put that to work when I went to each of these camps. Went to Texas camp, and got offered when I went there. And just kind of I just went to those 4 camps: the Army All-American Combine camp, Nike camp, OU camp, and Texas camp. And then I went to a 1-day senior camp at OU when I was already committed at that point.
Okay. Yeah. So it seemed like you took every advantage that you could, like one of those camps.
Believe it
like,
or
so
not,
you
I tried, man.
But no, it's interesting to just kind of see different perspectives on that. So you feel like you got a lot out of those camps, man, and they were extremely beneficial. So like your advice would be for everybody, like if they're pursuing that, to go to camps, get your name out there. I guess that's like just an extra avenue to get your name out there, get recognized by people who wouldn't normally see you.
Right. But see, that's why I say these days, man, the element for these kids is different because they got huddle. And Twitter is on fire, Instagram is on fire with the way they get their name out there. Like, I couldn't even imagine having Twitter or Huddle or something like that back then. First of all, it would have been no good. But just to have that avenue back then, I feel like it would have been just as beneficial as going to the camps. It's the same thing, but we just did it differently back then because we didn't have the social media. It's like, go to the camps and get your name and your face out there. But now, they can stay at the crib, work on their craft, and just shoot their information out there all across the country.
Right. Yeah, and I can't remember off the top of my head the name of the guy, but it was something on Twitter that I saw yesterday, and it was a kid. He was going into his freshman year, so he was 14, and he just posted a
you
picture
talking
of
about the kid that was flexing?
Yeah, he's like 6'5", 250, 260 or something like that. Yeah, and I was like,
you see what I'm saying? We hadn't seen this dude play a down the ball, but we both saw the same picture. So it's like, it's just different for them these days.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay, like after that I was like, all right, well, let me see him play. But at that size, like, he's gonna make plays regardless at the 8th grade level. I mean, he should be coming in as a freshman. I don't know anything about the school he's going to, but he should be coming in as a freshman, starting off top. So we'll see. All right, but coming into like your senior season, so how? I mean, you said y'all came off of a state championship, wrapping up your junior year, man. You were obviously a solid contributor. Then obviously all these other seniors are leaving, so I guess really from a receiver standpoint, you're the leader from that standpoint in that group. Did you feel like you had some additional responsibility as far as like a leadership standpoint coming into your senior season?
Man, I wanted that responsibility, but I mean, it was kind of one of them things. where it's like I ain't gonna put too much information out there, but it's just like one of those things that happens at Evangel every now and then. I was the only senior on offense, my senior year, but there was some times where I kind of felt like I wasn't given that role. Like, you know what I mean? I'm the only senior on offense. I feel like I should be leading, as far as, the offensive things go or whatever. Not saying like, oh, you got to throw me the ball every play. Now, I'm not saying that, but I felt like in certain situations, when it was crucial, like, come to me. That's what I'm here for. I'm the senior. Like, that's what I'm supposed to do. Like, it wasn't really given to me, but I tried to take it on as much as I could and try not to be a 17-year-old diva.
Well, you had enough examples on TV already, so it wouldn't have been hard to pick up that mantle.
You ain't lying.
So how did you feel like you performed your senior year as far as like, production wise individually? I know, like you said, you spoke earlier, you guys still move on, do very well, get another state championship under your belt. But as far as like you individually, how do you feel like you performed?
I felt like I could have did way better. I ended up actually getting hurt the first game of my senior year, and I missed 2 games. We played a team from South Carolina, and we played Ruston. No, not Ruston. I take that lie back. A team from South Carolina. Yeah, and it was Ruston. Ruston came to us, and I missed that game. So I missed 2 games, and like I said, I actually put my goals to paper my senior year because one of my coaches came to me. He was like, I want you to give me your goals for your senior year, and I want you to give me 10 schools that you might be interested in. So, I sat and I thought, as far as the goals, I wanted to have 100 catches because I'm coming off of a junior year. I'm seeing Thomas Bachman just caught like 107 balls for like 1,800 yards and like 20-something touchdowns. So I'm like, I'm trying to do that. Like, I want the 100 catches. I don't care about how many yards, but you give me them 100 catches, I'm going to get you 1,000.
Right.
But like I said, I ended up getting hurt, man, and I missed 2 games. And then when I came back, I had to play with a brace because I sprained my MCL. I had to play with a brace for 2 games, and it just it threw me off mentally coming back off of that injury. So it was a slow build up to what I felt like was, a pretty decent senior year.
Right. Okay. So, like you said, didn't necessarily hit the marks that you were looking for your senior year as far as individually. You got to still win another state championship. So that part of that section of your career with Evangel kind of coming to an end. So those 10 schools you kind of listed, did that kind of work out in your favor? Were all those 10 schools knocking on your door during the season and after the season ended?
Man, I wish I could find that list because I couldn't. I remember distinctively giving the list to my coach, and he didn't tell me this. He told my mama this. He was like, because I had Michigan on there. Michigan and Florida State was always 2 schools that I always had my eye on. And he told my mama, he was like, well, Tristen ain't gonna block if you go to Michigan because we don't block here at Evangel. I don't think he needs to go to Michigan. So I'm like, damn, coach. But at the same time, it's like, man, it's Michigan. It's cold. That's far away from home. He might have a point. So they didn't come knocking on the door. They sent a couple letters, but nothing, never never offered me a scholarship. But for the most part, the schools that I put on there, I pretty much got some type of communication with.
Okay. All right. So as you despite some of your setbacks and your injuries, I still saw that you kind of ended very, very high ranked nationally, man. I think what I saw here, you were ranked 22 overall at the wide receiver position after your senior season, and then they had you ranked 208 nationally. So, I mean, you despite those setbacks, man, you still had a lot of high accolades, man, as far as like how they were projecting you nationally. So what was that like as far as the vetting process? Because like I said, I know you had several teams after you. Then, eventually you had to kind of narrow that down. So, what was your thought process of, narrowing those schools down?
Man, it honestly this was a conversation that I had with my pops or whatever, and he was telling me, he was like, out of those 10 schools that you put on that list, you need to narrow it down at some point to 5 that you might want to, because you get 5 official visits. And I narrowed it down. I can't even remember what the top 5 was, but I actually only ended up taking three of my 5 visits. I had 2 set up. I had one set up for LSU, and I had one set up for Michigan State. Don't ask me why. I just wanted to go see what Michigan was like. But I ended up actually canceling both of those. After I committed, because I was like, Pops was like, man, you don't need to go up there wasting them folks' time if you truly are going to OU or whatever. If that's where you're going, like, you need to go on and start trying to focus on that and not trying to go around the country and just see stuff. But man, it was new. It was definitely a new process. My mama didn't know how to deal with it. I'm learning as I go. Pops didn't. He kind of knew because he played basketball or whatever, and he kind of got recruited a little bit, so he knew a little bit. But it was really just kind of learning as we went, man. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess that like you said, 17, 18-year-old man, and you got all these people calling you and man and talking to you, man, and telling you they want you to come be a part of their program.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of telling you the missing piece, the missing link, man. To kind of set the team off, man. I know that's
selling
that's
you.
great to hear,
we call
man.
it selling you the dream. They selling you that golden dream, man.
So can you tell me, like, what was the process like when you decided to choose OU? Like you said, I think from what I saw, man, you kind of came down to OU, which is University of Oklahoma, Texas, and then it was Tennessee that you were looking at also. Like, what kind of leaned you towards choosing OU?
Well, I was actually, that's why I was born in Oklahoma, so I had ties as far as that goes. My mother's side of the family, we had a lot of family up there. Actually, one of my aunts that I was extremely close to that helped raise me, she was still living there, so I was like, okay, let me go ahead and look into this a little bit different now, because I'll be able to go and see family. And I'm thinking from a standpoint, like, if I ever need to wash clothes or if I ever want that good home cooked meal, all I got to do is holler at Auntie, and I can get that taken care of. But man, at the time, OU was coming off of they had just won the Rose Bowl. I think when they played that Rose Bowl, they was ranked they was in the top 8. So going into the next season, that 2003 season, everybody was expecting OU to be ranked number 1, which we were. So I'm like, man, that's where I want to be. Like, I'm coming off these 2 state championships. They about to be the number 1 team in the country. Like, that's where I want to be. Like, I'm used to this winning culture. I want to go and win. So that was really kind of one of the deciding factors for me. With Tennessee, of course, Jonathan Wade went there or whatever. And like I said, me and him were extremely close. And I remember that receiver coach telling me, I need you to come in and play. Like, it ain't if you want, I need you to come in and play. And this might sound so crazy, but this lets you know how a 17-year-old think. At the time, man, Tennessee was rocking Adidas, and there was something about their footballs. Like, I didn't like the way their footballs looked, and they wore Adidas. It's like, I don't like that. Like, I don't feel like I can go up there and be fly. Like, receiver, man, we want to be fly. So that kind of X'd them out for me, man. I'm like, no, I don't really know about that one. And then Texas, it was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know about Texas either. It's like I said, growing up and having all my family, like, be big time OU supporters, man. It's like, if I go to Texas, they'll never let me back in the house.
Hey, you never coming back to Christmas or Thanksgiving, right?
Oh man, I'm banned. I'm shunned.
Right. Okay. So can you tell me you obviously make a decision to go to OU. Can you tell me what was signing day like for you and your family?
Man, moms took off work, came up to the school. We did it in the library. Me and 3 other my buddies that were seniors that ended up going to different schools. It was cool, man. The actual whole recruiting process and all that was more exciting because, like I said, man, back then signing day wasn't like it is now. There was no big fanfare. Like, it wasn't a big
Right.
deal like that back then. So just to even have the news crew there, that was like, dang, the news came. But now they got like ESPN. They pulling out props. It's like, man, I'm my mind is blown the way these kids
Right.
do this thing now.
Right. Yeah, no, to that point, you're right, man. They got 5 different hats sitting up there, and they putting one hat
Right.
on, taking one hat off, then they zipping down, they got the shirt on, so it's
Yeah,
definitely
or
a
they
media show.
they open up the jackets and do that kind of stuff now, man. They putting on this a whole production now.
And all along, those coaches are just sitting there waiting to see what the decision is, and then to see a kid put your hat
Hmm.
on and then to take it off,
Yeah.
that ain't gonna do nothing but tick you
Right.
off, man. So
Yeah, man. It's yeah. It's like I'm not personally. I'm not a fan of the way they do it now. I guess I'm just old school. I'm just that old man
right,
sitting on the porch, get out my yard. But I don't really like it, man. I'm go on and pick where you gonna go, and like you said, stop leaving these coaches in limbo because they got other, they got other spots they trying to look out for, and they trying to fill, and they need to decide, what they gonna do. Like, now I'm not saying a kid should be rushed. Take your time and make a thoughtful decision, but just the whole fanfare, man. But I'm not gonna sit there and say I wouldn't have did it if it would have been like that back then. So let me shut up.
right. Well, 'cause like I say, you see what all of your peers are doing, and you was like, man, you kind of still want to be on that level too, man. To make sure you make a little bit of a splash coming in. So I get it. So.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, and then at that point, like you said, you got a few people in Shreveport checking it out on the news. You got a couple people in Oklahoma, things of that nature, checking that out on the news. But now these guys, when they're signing, they may have 10 million people watching. You know,
It's
through
crazy.
streaming, social media, whatever, watching them. So that's really a really good opportunity for them to kind of get a little notoriety before they even play a collegiate snap. Um,
Yeah. Exactly.
as far as them already starting to promote their brand, coming into college.
Right.
All right, so you decide to go to OU. So how was that coming into campus? Obviously coming in, signing, and then obviously coming in for the first fall for 2 days. Like how was that experience coming in?
Man, let me tell you. Now you want to talk about a culture shock. Coming from Evangel and going to the University of Oklahoma, big culture shock. As far as, and I'm talking about from a training standpoint. Like, man, we get there for summer workouts, and it's like, damn, this is what we finna have to do the rest of the summer, running 22 110s, running up and down the stadium steps, running this big ass hill we had. Man, it was. I'm like, man, you got to get your mind right for this one. And I think one thing with me is I wasn't as disciplined as I should have been. I should have been way more disciplined once I got on campus or whatever. But man, it was definitely a culture shock, man. You go from playing with basically your peers, kids or whatever. Now I'm in the same locker room with Tommy Harris, two-time All-American.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mark Clayton, his locker a couple lockers down from me. It's like it's crazy, man. Like it was one of them surreal things. Like I can't believe I'm here and this is what we doing.
So as far as like coming in, like I said, 2 days, things of that nature, man. Did you feel like you could compete when you came in there, or you just like, man, I gotta continue to step my game up, man, because these guys are really on another level, and I gotta prove that I belong, or like I said, when you stepped on the campus, man, did you automatically feel like you belong?
Man, I definitely felt like I belonged. I felt like I was where I was supposed to be. Of course, we all feel like when we hit the field, we supposed to be starting, and ain't nobody better than me. But I was realistic, like, man, these guys, because it was Mark Clayton, Brandon Jones, Will Peoples, a couple other cats, they was in front of me. It's like, man, in my mind, I'm looking like, man, these is grown men. You know what I mean? They've been here. They know how this thing go. I just need to kind of grind my teeth and just kind of keep grinding and my time will come, I actually ended up hindering myself, man, because like I told you earlier, that basketball, I couldn't leave that ball alone. We go and we playing basketball in the summer. During summer workouts, I pull my hamstring like 2 weeks before fall camp. So I don't even get to go through fall camp full speed. So,
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
I can't even really. And I felt like that would have been a key fall camp for me to at least show. I mean, they
Right.
knew what I could do, but I felt like the reps would have been better for me that true freshman year and being out there and kind of getting my feet wet and being able to go through fall camp 100%. But unfortunately, I didn't get to, and then I ended up getting redshirted. So, it just kind of worked out that way.
Right, right. Okay. So you come in, like you said, have the injury playing basketball, go through, I guess you say modified 2 a days based on, like say your hamstring, and for most part, I think unless they have a extreme need, they try to look at bringing in people to redshirt that first year for the most part, and like I say, unless something crazy happens.
Right.
So that kind of goes by. Then, like I said, you're coming
Yeah.
into, that fall. I mean, not the fall, but you're coming into that spring after the season, and then like you say, now that's time to kind of put your talents on display, to kind of let everybody know. All right, I've been here. I've seen the speed of the game. I've been through the workouts. I know what it takes to be successful at this level. And now it's time to kind of put my skills and my talents on display. So how did that work, like coming into like that spring after your redshirt season?
Man, well, actually, that spring after fall of 2003, that fall 2003, spring '04, I actually had a damn good spring. Cause we had our spring game or whatever. I think I had like 5 catches,
Right.
80 something yards, something like that. It's like, so now it's like, okay, they starting to look, and it's like I'm starting to get these write ups in the Sooners Illustrated. In the back then it was message boards, wasn't social media. It was the message boards. I'm starting to see my name on these message boards, and that was actually probably half the problem. Me seeing my name on the message board, cause this is when the story gets interesting, man. Like I said, I wasn't
Okay.
disciplined. I'm not going to class, man. I'm missing classes. Um, Stuff like that. Grades start to kind of take a dip. So I actually ended up. I was suspended my what was my redshirt freshman fall 2004. I was suspended. I had to go to a community college in Oklahoma. Like I said, I had a family member up there, so I'm staying with my aunt in the fall of 2004. But on the weekends, every weekend I'm in Norman. Like, you know what I mean? I'm with my boys. I'm still making my presence, around my teammates or whatever. I'm letting them know, like, man, I'm still with y'all. I'm just trying to climb over this little hill or whatever. And they embrace me, man. Make sure you come every weekend or whatever. We better see you, So that was a learning
Okay.
a learning curve for me, you know,
Well,
just trying to figure out.
so can you kind of expound on that? 'Cause, like, I guess just from somebody who may not understand that how that works. So, um, you were going through your freshman year. I guess that was the fall of '03, and then, like you said,
Right.
kind of became. I guess explain if I'm wrong. Like you were academically ineligible going into the
There you go.
spring semester,
Yeah.
or okay.
Well, spring
So
spring semester I'm on probation. I'm on
okay.
probation spring semester. They you get an opportunity, to do the intercessions and all that or whatever. Between the spring semester and the summer before summer school starts.
Okay.
I guess, man, I can't even specifically remember, but like I said, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, man. Because I'm in the mindset of I'm 18, 19, man. I'm in the mindset of you can't get rid of me. Like, you came and recruited me. This is the total wrong mindset to have. I'm not saying that I was right by any means. That I'm just
Right. Right.
just trying to shed some light on how kids can think sometimes, and that's why anytime I get an opportunity to tell anybody that's, you know, especially younger playing ball or getting recruited, like, man, take advantage of the opportunity you got and don't kind of get caught up in that lights and glamour and all that. Like, it's work to
Right.
be done, and it's like if you don't do that work, they will get rid of you. And they proved that to me by, well, it wasn't even the coaches, it was the school. Like you don't even meet the requirements to stay in school. So, I had to
Okay.
go meet with the dean of my particular, college or whatever. I had to go meet with her, and she was not a very nice lady. And she told me, she was like, you go to this school or find a community college or find something, get your grades up, and we'll think about letting you back in the spring of 2005. So I had to buckle down, man, and I got it done. But it was definitely a learning experience.
So how was that? Because I guess, again, correct me if I'm wrong. So those scholarships that you get, those are year to year scholarships. So I guess
Right. And see,
based
I
on
didn't know
that
that.
conversation,
I didn't-
right? So based on the conversation you had with the dean, and I'm assuming right after that you had to have a conversation with the coaching staff about you leaving. So you
Okay.
had to pick Seminole College. You decided to go to, which was local. So you had to go in
Right.
and enroll there. Did you enroll there initially in the summer, or did you start there in the fall of '04?
I think I started. I think I actually did start in the summer, like the second half of the summer. Uh, right before you get into that fall semester. I started then, and then just kind of went throughout that fall semester. But that was, man, that was
So,
probably, it was terrible. I'll just be honest with you, it was terrible.
well, you're going, like you said, you're going from this nationally acclaimed program with all these resources to to this community college, like you said, that they're really probably just getting people there to just get them through and get them out, man. People really just looking for
That's it, man.
maybe vocational certifications and degrees, man, and then they going to work.
Right.
So what was your mindset then? Like, I know, because like you said, that's a lot of transition and a lot of change for, like you said, a 19-year-old kid at the time, for you to have all this success, over at Evangel, then come over to this national powerhouse. I have an injury, and obviously, there's a lot of things going on with that physically and psychologically. And then, all of a sudden, you're really 18 months removed from a championship on the state level, and now you're at Seminole College. So, man, like, can you speak to, like, where was your mindset as far as, like, things were going on with you?
Man, I think the biggest thing for me was making sure, like I said, that I kept in touch with those people that were still at OU, and not letting myself get too bogged down on the situation at hand. It was definitely a mental a mental challenge at that time. Like, you know what I'm saying, like trying to keep your mind together, and still trying to focus on what you got in front of you, all the while you think I'm feeling like I'm missing out on the things that's going on at OU. Not even on like a party or a social type scene. I'm just talking about, like, man, I should be at practice with my boys right now. Like, it just kind of made me miss it a little bit more, and made me want to come back even stronger and harder, you know, than I was when I left.
Right. So how were you training when you were there at Seminole College in '04? Like, I know you said you were still going every weekend over to Norman, but how were you keeping in shape and keeping your route running and things like that, Chris, during that semester over at Seminole College?
Man, that's another thing. I wasn't. I ain't gonna even lie to you. I wasn't, man. I'm staying with my aunt. She cooking. She getting up making breakfast every morning before I get off and go to class. She making dinner at night. You know what I mean? I actually gained, man, like 10, 15 pounds. I went back to OU at like 227, man. My coach was pissed. Uh, so it's like I wasn't, man. It's like I'm still, because at that time, man, I'm just so focused on trying to like get the school aspect right. I'm like, man, the physical side of this, I can get that back, but you know what I mean. I need to focus and lock in on this. What I felt like was the hardest thing for me, which was being disciplined, going to class, doing the work that I had in front of me, and trying to make sure, that I got that taken care of. I wasn't even worried about trying to run a route or nothing. That sounds terrible, but again, I'm 18, 19, man. Think I know it all.
Okay. So I'm assuming, like, you go to Seminole College for that time. So that fall semester ends in '04. So where do you stand coming back in spring '05? I know you said the dean said that do what you need to do there, then we'll think about letting you come back to OU. So how was that? As you close out that semester at Seminole College, trying to get back in OU.
Man, this is another one of those. I get there. They let me back in spring '05. We go through winter workouts. I finally get that little piece of weight off of me. I think the day of the spring game, I was 212. Because I never forget, my strength coach made me go get on the scale after the spring game because he knew I needed to lose weight. But my spring, man, that year was another good spring. It was like, okay, he had his academic issues, had lost the weight or whatever. Now I'm getting ready to, like, okay, you're going to be in the mix. Like, it's time to get you in the mix now because at this point, Clayton had left. He had just got drafted. The two other seniors we had two seniors, so they needed that third guy, and I was set to be that third guy. But again, man, I don't know. Now I think this is when things kind of took a turn for me. As far as mentally, man, I was having some depression and stuff like that. Things kind of took a turn for me, and that's kind of like when the whole OU thing kind of trailed off because, like I said, I was set to be. I don't know if anybody remembers watching them games back then, but Malcolm Kelly had an explosive freshman year. That was the spot that I was in. Like I was set to be in that spot, but didn't handle my business, man. And that boy came in there and did his thing. Salute to him.
Yeah. So that was. I was just trying to piece together the timeline. So like I said, you kind of came back in the spring of '05. You said you had a really good spring, and then obviously kind of going through two-a-days again over the summer and then into the fall of '05. So you're saying like it was kind of you, really between you and Malcolm Kelly for the most part for that third slot, and then he just kind of came in and balled out.
Well, see what happened was, man, I actually ended up having my girlfriend at the time. She got pregnant, and my son, I ended up having a son. That kind of threw me off as far as like, how am I gonna be able to take care of this child? Like, you know what I mean? Knowing, just be cool, just sit still. They will help you with this. My mind is just running a million miles a minute, man, because I don't know what I'm gonna do, in this situation. So I just got all these different thoughts, man, and I'm not really knowing how to process them. So when summertime rolls around, I think I went through like the first month and a half of summer workouts, and I actually got kicked out of one of the summer workouts because it said I didn't make my time or whatever. So I get kicked out. Me and two other cats, we get kicked out. We get sent to the locker room. They was like, man, I'm finna go back out here, man. I gotta get back out here. I'm 18, 19 at this point. No, 20 at this point. Still thinking I know everything. I ain't going back out there. I ain't doing it. So I didn't go back. And I didn't go back to none of the summer workouts the rest of that year or rest of that summer. And then when two-a-days rolled around, my mama had to come up to Norman. We went and sat down and had a talk with Coach Stoops. He understood the situation or whatever. Come back to two-a-days, clean slate, we'll start over fresh. Two-a-days roll around. Honestly, man, I was scared because, like I said, it was intense with them workouts up there, and we was still doing actual two-a-days then. I don't even know if they still do it like that now, but we was doing actual two-a-days, and man, I was scared. I'm like, man, I'm gonna get out there and die. So I end up not showing up. I end up not showing up for the two-a-days, man. I don't show up for the two-a-days. And when I did,
I'm just saying, when you left, you said you didn't go back after that initial summer workout. Like, what were you doing for like the rest of the summer? Like between when you left and between when two-a-days started.
Now during that time, I would go and like, because they had like a little intramural flag football team on campus or whatever. I would go out there and like mess around with that as far as like trying to stay in shape. Maybe go to like the little on-campus gym or whatever that we had. I'm still trying to keep it right. I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, man, I'll be able to go back out there for two-a-days, but I got inside my own head, man, because I'm still like over the course of the summer, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to deal with being a new young father. How am I going to deal with this? and try to, get back on track with football and school as far as that. And it's like, man, looking back, it's like I had a lot on my plate. Really more so that I put on my plate myself. Like nobody else did it. I put it on my plate, but I guess I was just biting off more than I could chew and thinking that I could handle things on my own, and it just kind of took its toll on me, man. Like I said, I didn't go back out there for 2 days, and it was pretty much downhill for me after that point, man. It was rough trying to get back in good graces, once you done pretty much showed that, like you don't have the discipline that it takes to be, a successful contributor to this team. So, it's like, man, that's a bed that I had to lay in, and it was rough for a minute, man, but I've made peace with it over the years, man, and I just use it as a part of my story now, man, to pass on to the next one, that I can try to prevent from doing anything remotely close to what I did.
Right. So, like you said, I guess I'm a little curious of how that conversation happened. You said you kind of came up there with your mom, and y'all kind of talked to Coach Stoops about the whole situation, and you got a clean slate, right. And 2 days got close. And you said you just didn't show up for 2 days?
Just didn't go, bro. Just didn't go. Matter of fact, I remember 2 of my closest homeboys to this day from OU. They came to my apartment, man. They were like, man, you gonna come to practice? And I was like, man, I ain't doing it, man. I'm transferring. I'm getting up out of here, man. I'm telling you, I knew everything, man. You couldn't tell me nothing. I knew it all. Like, man, I'm getting out of here. I'm leaving. So I just didn't go, man. It actually, what happened, I didn't tell Coach Stoops. They calling me. I'm not answering the phone. So you get your scholarship check every month. That's how I'm paying my rent. So I go up to the stadium where we used to get our stuff. I go to get my check. They wouldn't give it to me. The girl was like, yeah, we can't give you your check. Coach Stoops said you need to call him first. And I'm like, what? Like, so Coach Stoops done sent the message to the people for the checks. Don't give him his check. Have him call me before you give him his check. So, man, when I tell you I called the man and he cussed me out on that phone, man. And then I had to go sit and talk to him. It was, man, I was like, come on, man, you got to get it together. But I don't know, man. It's like, on life, I couldn't get right. Can't get right.
Oh, man. Well, like I say, man, there's a lot of stuff going on, man. So a lot of things to process, man, and that's tough for anybody, let alone somebody that's 20 years old, man, trying to play college football, and then at that point looking at very soon to be juggling the family. So, all right. So how did things end? Like, so you just that we're looking at fall 05. So did you just not go back and then decided to leave OU, or like what would it look like after that?
I actually, because like you said, those scholarships year to year, they had actually already signed mine. So I finished out the fall semester and the spring semester. No, I take that lie back. I finished out the fall semester. In spring of 06, I just kind of, man, I just did a bunch of bouncing around. Like it's almost like I was trying to chase that high. It's like I was trying to chase that spot where I felt like I belonged, and it's like I couldn't never find it, man. And it was just a bunch of moving around and bouncing around and just trying to figure things out at that point. That's why, man, with all that I've, told you and shared with you, is like, with all that being said, I'm huge on the whole like mental health now, man, because it's like back then I didn't know how depressed I was or the things that I was dealing with. I did end up, talking to, specialists or whatever, having sessions with therapists and stuff like that. And I just kind of over the years, even still going through all that, knowing that I had that depression, I'm still kind of burying it, man. I'm still trying to fix my own problems. So, that's why, first, man, I appreciate, you letting me come on, man, and share this story. Because like I said, at the end of the day, man, I just want to make sure mental health is something that, especially us in the black community, that we try to take care of, man, and make sure we got all our ducks in a row, man, so we can be successful in life.
Right. Well, and that's a solid point too, because even the conversation I had with Chester, he said that he was depressed. He felt like he was clinically depressed for like 12 years, and that is crazy to think about. In in the grand scheme of things, like, because you know something ain't right, you know something's going on, but like you say, as
Right.
men, and even as black men, you kind of just have to push it all to the side, and keep providing,
Suck
keep
it up.
moving forward. Suck it up. Whole deal with even as it relates to sports. Suck it up. Don't cry. Be a man.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Things of that nature. Which has really been, you know, toxic to the community as a whole, as far as us not being able to kind of open up and figure out how can we process and deal with some of these emotions that we're going on, and actually have a safe place where we can share that dialogue with somebody, and understand that some of the stuff that we were taught is not normal. Some of the stuff we were showed
Yeah.
coming up, is very odd, and we should have never been taught that. But I get it from a lot of our generations in the past, man. They didn't have time to sit back and process emotions and things of that nature, man. They had to get out there and make things happen. So they were just passing down what they knew. So I mean, I think we're in a really interesting point where we can have those conversations about mental health, and then it not be looked at as you being a weaker
Right.
man. But it's just something we got to keep moving forward and continue to have those conversations, and people continue to want to look to be open and vulnerable to have those conversations and be able to come on platforms and talk about it. Like, yeah, man, I was jacked up. I needed to talk to somebody.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I look at it, man. These days, I look at it as like not necessarily a badge of honor, but I look at it as a source of like strength, man, to be able to be comfortable with saying that, man, I've been down that road. Like, you know what I'm saying? I've been in that space, and sometimes still can get close to that space, but it's like now I have the wherewithal to know, like, you know what I'm saying? Okay, let's take a step back. Let's like take a break. Let's talk to somebody about this and figure out what's going on versus just trying to always, just trying to figure stuff out on your own.
Right, absolutely. So I saw some information, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you were on the roster of Louisiana College in 2007. Did that happen, or maybe I was mistaken?
Man, like I said, that was one of them chasing them high, man. If you, I'm loving the research, man, because it's like I'm sure you probably found a couple schools on there, man. I was all over the place, but yeah, that was. I think that might have been no, that wasn't even the last place. That was the second to last place that I
Okay.
ended up, man. I was just look, and I'm all for clarity, man, and being totally honest, man. Honestly, man, I was just out there chasing them. The checks you get for going to school, the what is
Yeah.
it, the financial aid, man. I was chasing that financial aid, man. I ain't even finna sit there and lie to you.
Well, and I just say that because I know that you had there was a tie there for Louisiana College with Evangel, because Coach had went down there and started coaching. So I guess you might have had a conversation with him about coming down there. Uh, so no. I
Oh
thought
yeah,
that
yeah,
was,
yeah. I
thought that
mean,
was
because
cool.
actually, two guys that I played with in high school ended up, and another cat that I was cool with from Shreveport. They was all down there. So, it just kind of felt like one of them situations. Like, okay, that was another one of them situations where I thought like I'm just about to walk into this, and it's just about to be handed to you, and it's like, nope, not at all. Like, no matter where you go in life or who man, at some point you're gonna have to work for whatever it is you want. Like, you gotta work for it. They not gonna hand it to you.
Right. Well, and even like you said, you came from one of the top programs in the country with OU, and now you're at Louisiana College. You would, I think a lot of people would assume they would just step in and dominate, and all the stuff would be handed to you. But no, to your point, man, you still got to put in the work, no matter what it is. If you want to get something out of it, you have to put in the work.
Yeah, exactly,
Um,
exactly, man.
so over at OU, so did your dad play at OU?
Yeah, he did. The biological, yeah, he played them. We don't really have the best relationship, but he did play there back in the '80s, back with that Barry Switzer wing T or wishbone or whatever they was running back then.
Okay. Well, and like I said, it was one of the things,
But my
like, and I
cousin,
think
my,
all
my
that has.
cousin actually played too.
Oh, did he? Okay. What time
Yeah.
frame did he play?
He was on he was there 84, 85. He was on the 85 national championship team. And his son actually ended up just graduating maybe 2-3 years ago. So it's like, man, this OU thing, man, it's deep in my blood, man.
Right. Okay, cool. So at what point, like you said, you left, you kind of bounced around a few places, but at what point did you know, like, all right, my football career is over?
Man, when I was out here still trying to go play in these arena leagues and stuff like that, and it's like I didn't feel like myself. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't feel like that 19, 20-year old me. You know, and I'm just like, man, how long are you gonna keep trying to do this? Like, and really, like, what is the point of you doing this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you come out here and you running around and you run into one of these walls, but you still got to go to work on Monday. They don't care about you having a broke leg or you done tore your ACL. You still got to go clock in on Monday. So, you know, man, I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I think it's just time to go on and just hang this one up, man, and just call it good and just lesson learned. You know, pass it on to
Right.
my son and let him know, man, this is not what you're supposed to do.
Right. Like, but who were you playing with at the time? Like, was it like a certain play where you were like, all right, this is over, or was it a certain game, or after a season, you were just like, you know what,
Man,
I'm
we
not doing this anymore.
we actually we I was on this. It was a little small startup indoor league. It wasn't even arena league. It was indoor football, and we were practicing at those indoor soccer facilities. We practicing, and I go to dive for a ball, and I slide across that turf, and I hit that wall, like my head hit the wall, and that was the first time that I actually felt like I had a concussion. You know, playing football. Like,
Oh.
and I'm like, man, nah, this ain't it. I ain't y'all. They don't provide no type of insurance. Like, man, I get out here and break my neck. I'm like, man, nah, this ain't for me no more. I'm done. Oh, it's a wrap.
Right. But was that hard for you to accept, or were you just at a point that we're like, nah, I'm done with it, or
It
you had to
was,
process
man.
it for a while?
It was hard to accept at first. Yeah, it was definitely hard to accept and process at first because I mean I'm still watching football, of course, and still love the game or whatever. So it was hard to accept, but at the same time I had to accept the fact that, well, you didn't do what you needed to do to put yourself in the best position to succeed. Like, you didn't work out the way that you needed to. You didn't keep your routes as sharp as they used to be. So it's like, it's kind of one of those things, like, it's hard to accept, but at the same time, you gotta swallow that pill because it's like you the one that did it. Can't be mad at nobody but yourself. So, it was rough to get over at first, man. But eventually, I got to a point to where it's like it is what it is, man.
Yeah. It's like you said earlier. It's part of your story, and you just use that experience to help educate everybody else. So, and that's kind of one of my next questions. Like,
Right.
so what advice would you give players now coming in through high school, and even some players that may be early on in college? Like, what pieces of advice that would you give them specifically that you saw that you needed, but potentially didn't have access to when we were kind of talking about the mental health aspect? So what kind of advice would you give
Man.
current players now?
The biggest thing is stay disciplined. If you can stay disciplined and do the things that you need to do, everything else will fall into place. Now there is that aspect of when you do have mental health questions or whatever, or you're not feeling like you are all the way up here, then yeah, you definitely need to work those out. But as far as the football aspect, man, just stay disciplined. Take advantage of whatever the opportunity is. I don't care if you at USC, Florida State, or if you at East Panhandle State. Take advantage of the opportunity, man, and just every rep, every practice, every moment that you in that space of football that you so say love, take advantage of that, man, and just run with it. Like, the sky's the limit for anybody if you put your mind to it and grind and work for it. You can do whatever you want.
Right. Because nobody really ever knows when their last rep is. So, and it's kind of had that perspective nowadays. Like, you kind of look back and like, man, I should have been running routes a lot harder. I should have been lifting harder. I should have been doing a lot of things better. Because if you look back and like on May 5th, 2000, whatever, that was the last time I was on the field. That was the last time I was at practice. That was the last time I was at a workout. That was the last time I ran a route. And when it's gone, like you said, it's gone at that level. So I think that's a really good point as far as the discipline piece, man. Just stay consistent, stay disciplined, and practice and work hard, man. Because like I said, you never know when your clock gets punched. I mean, nobody knows when that is. So
Exactly.
play hard every play.
Exactly, man. Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right. You mentioned earlier about, like I say, having a son. So what advice do you give your son? I mean, I know it's probably something similar, but does he play sports? Is he involved or?
He does, man. He actually getting ready to go into his sophomore year. He actually, and it's crazy, man. He's in the same situation I'm in, or was in, as far as like he's going into this sophomore year, coming off of an injury. He's actually having back surgery next week. Just a little small procedure or whatever, but it's something that I tell him all the time, man. This is something that you can use and build with moving forward. Like, you need to make sure you not only still keeping yourself in shape physically, but mentally you need to make sure you locked in and knowing what's going on. Like, don't stray too far away from the program just because you might have, your injury or whatever. Just kind of make sure you always doing the things that you need to do. So I tell him all the time, man, hard work. You gotta work. Like, nobody gonna give it to you. None of that, So I try to always make sure I reiterate to him, you gotta work hard. It's not given. You have to work.
Right. All right. Good deal. All right, man. We won't hold you too much longer. But what can you tell me a little bit about Universal Citizens?
Oh man, the Citizens, man. We it was something that we started, of course, during the pandemic or whatever. It started as us just kind of having a group text. Me, Chester, and Renell, having a group text, going back and forth, talking about all kind of stuff. And Renell would always say, man, we need to do a podcast. And we would talk about it before the pandemic, but the pandemic is what actually pushed us into doing it. And initially, we just were doing like audio. But I kind of felt like, man, they need to see us. Like, people need to see what's going on, because let's just be honest, a lot of time people don't sit and listen to podcasts or whatever. They rather be able to see and listen. So, that's when we got the whole idea of doing the Zooms or Skype or whatever, man. And, like we was just talking about with sports, just staying consistent. Like, we all kind of agree, like, no matter what, we need to stay consistent with doing this, so this becomes a part of our, say, routine or whatever. Like, we always kind of thinking about what we want to do for the podcast. But, man, right now we kind of all over the place with the topics, man. We try to keep it in one lane. But, sometimes it kind of always. So I told Chester, man, it seems like we always leaning toward these relationship questions, man. I don't know if we a relationship podcast or what, but we always doing these relationship questions, man. So that's kind of what it is right now. But I mean, man, it's fun, man. I love doing it with them boys, man. We gonna keep trying to pump them out, man, as much as we can.
Right. No, man. I've been watching them, man, ever since I found out about them. So we'll definitely continue to make sure we put the link to Universal Citizens in the bio, so everybody else, who's listening to this, man, they can link on, man, and kind of catch up to what you guys are doing and what you guys are talking about. Likewise. All right. But I got a couple quick hitters for you, so just answer them, man, the best way you can. If you could play with one quarterback, who would it be and why?
Like anybody across the board?
Anybody in a NFL, college, anybody you've seen. If you could be on the team with one quarterback as your guy, your dude, like, who would it be and why?
That's my guy, man. I've never actually even thought about this question before. Just off top, man, I'd probably have to go with Peyton, man. Just Peyton Manning, and like, I'm gonna go with Peyton.
Yeah, he'll definitely make sure you're in the right spot. So cool. All right.
That's what I'm. Now you see. Now you feel me.
Who was the toughest defensive back you ever played against?
High school, definitely was Frankie Lyons and this other cat named Dez Abrams that went to West Monroe. Never forget them boys. And then college was by far Derek Strait. That's probably one of the smartest corners I've ever seen.
Okay. Yeah, I remember Strait. Yeah, he was solid. All right. What was the best team that you played on?
Best team. Best team was the 2001 Evangel team and the 2003 OU team, because that was the year we went to the national championship, and unfortunately LSU did what they did, but we had a squad.
Okay. All right. And can you name your top 5 receivers of all time?
Oh man, top 5 of all time: Jerry Rice, Calvin Johnson. You putting me on the spot. Personal favorite, Peter Ward.
Peter Ward. Okay.
I got 2 more. I'm gonna go with Megatron. Oh, I said Calvin already, didn't I?
You had Calvin on there.
I said Calvin already.
You got Moss in the conversation.
Man. Oh yeah, man. How you gonna let me forget Randy? And man, I'm gonna throw a wild card out there. It's a toss up, but I'm gonna go with Julio, man. I've always been a fan of Julio,
Okay.
like his size, his physicality. I've always been a fan of Julio. I know I'm gonna get slaughtered for some people I left off. That's all right.
No, man, that's a solid list, man. Yeah, like I say, it's your list, so it don't matter, right?
Yeah, I'm about to say it's my list. It don't even matter.
All right. No, and the last question I ask everybody, man, who would you like to see next on the podcast?
Man, just give me some more local Shreveport past athletes, man. Dang, who was I thinking about the other day? There was somebody that was cold back in the day in Shreveport that I was thinking about, but I done forgot. It done slipped my mind. But man, I love seeing all the cats that was that we grew up on and knew back then that was killing stuff back then. If you can reach out to some of them boys, man, that'll be cool.
All right, we'll do, man. We'll make it happen. But no, man, this is our catch up with Tristen Ross, man. No, man, I appreciate your time, man. It was a great story, great insight. Appreciate you even digging down, man, and having those conversations, man, about the mental health aspect of it, man. I think that's something we still need to continue to push forward as a community. So I think that's very important, man. So, no, man, thanks for your time today, man. We appreciate it.
Oh, man, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, man, and giving me the opportunity.
All right. Thank you for listening to the More Than Sports podcast. Please like, subscribe, and set your notifications so you can be up to date on new content. Also, if you have a story you'd like to share, please reach out to us at mystory@morethansportspodcast.com.